She woke up alone. At first, she probably thought I'd gone out for a run. I used to do that on Saturdays, even though the neighborhood started getting too busy by 8 a.m. Maybe she thought I'd gone to the store for eggs or coffee. She probably even glanced at the clock, stretched, and figured I'd be back soon. But then she noticed the silence. The thick kind that doesn't belong in a house built for two. My closet? Empty. Not a single shirt left hanging. Even the old work boots I kept for the yard, gone. The drawer where I kept my wallet, keys, watch, cleaned out. Bathroom counter? Toothbrush gone. Razor? Gone. My aftershave gone, except the faint smell of cedar and menthol that lingered in the tile grout like a whisper. She opened her phone, probably trying to call. I imagined the confusion on her face when she saw my name still in her favorites. Then the call failed. Disconnected. Number no longer in service. The way I planned it. It didn't happen all at once. I wasn't the kind of man to make rash decisions. It started 3 weeks earlier, on an ordinary Thursday. I came home early from work, since the job site got rained out. She wasn't expecting me. I let myself in quiet, figuring I'd surprise her with lunch or maybe catch a rerun of one of those courtroom shows we half-watched together on slow afternoons. I passed through the laundry room and saw the basket full of clothes she'd dumped from the dryer. Out of habit, I started folding. That's when I saw it. A red lace bra. Still smelled like fabric softener and faint perfume. Not hers. At least, not anything I'd ever seen her wear. I'd been with Melissa 10 years. I knew every piece she owned. Black cotton, pale blues, some beige ones for work, and one playful set with little polka dots from our anniversary trip 5 years ago. But this one? Expensive. Flashy. Something meant to be seen. I stared at it for a long minute, like maybe it would start making sense. That's when I saw the receipt tucked at the bottom of the Victoria's Secret bag she'd forgotten behind the door. 2 items purchased. Only one in the basket. Now, I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. I trusted her. Or maybe I just never let myself think too hard about the cracks that had been forming. But that bra was the first clean break in the foundation. A hairline fracture that started to split wide open. That night, I checked the shared iPad. She left it charging in the kitchen, like she always did. Said the screen hurt her eyes. I'd never had a reason to check it before. This time, I opened the message app. Call it instinct, or maybe I already knew deep down what I'd find. One message stood out. A notification preview with a contact name I didn't recognize. JT, the message read, still thinking about Tuesday. That scent of yours is burned into my pillow. I didn't open the full thread. I didn't need to. The words were sharp enough as they were. The kind you can't pretend away. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the iPad as the clock ticked past midnight. She was asleep upstairs. The ceiling creaked faintly when she turned in bed. I sat there until the sun started coming up, that stupid red bra lying across the laundry room tile like a confession. I didn't confront her. That's not how I operate. I don't yell. I don't throw things. I just plan. That morning, I took a personal day from work and drove to my buddy Jack's place. He's a mechanic, the kind of guy who knows how to make problems disappear. We talked shop, drank some black coffee. I asked him if I could keep a few things in his garage for a while. He nodded, no questions asked. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved my things slowly. Every work shirt, every set of tools, all my passwords. I opened a new bank account, cashed out half my savings, changed my direct deposit. I even pulled the title on my truck and transferred it to a private trust. I read up on Texas property laws. Quietly called a lawyer 3 counties over. The last piece was the house. We bought it together, but I had always paid the mortgage. I had it refinanced in my name just last year. She didn't even notice. Thought the interest rate went down because of some government thing. The night before I left, she asked what I wanted for dinner. I said spaghetti. She smiled and said she'd make it tomorrow. I kissed her on the forehead. At 4:17 the next morning, I walked out with the last of my things. She woke up to nothing. Just the humming of the refrigerator, a faint smell of my aftershave, and the first day of the rest of her life. Alone. You ever tried pretending everything's fine while your gut's chewing itself raw? That was me. For weeks. After I found the bra and the message, I didn't confront her. I didn't rage, didn't shout. Just nodded when she talked. Smiled when she asked about my day. Kissed her goodnight and told her I loved her. I wasn't lying. I just wasn't talking to her anymore. Not really. I was talking to a version of her that only existed before the evidence. Before I knew what kind of woman I'd actually married. She kept on being sweet. Almost too sweet. Said she wanted to plan something special for our anniversary. 9 years. She talked about cabins, hiking trails, even mentioned a vineyard out by Fredericksburg. I said sure, sounded good. Let her feel like she was steering. All the while, I was 3 steps ahead. I bought a burner phone. Nothing fancy, just a cheap prepaid. Left it in the garage under the bench, wrapped in an old pair of socks. I used it only when I was away from the house. I made a new email. Set up alerts for her car's GPS. She'd synced it with our family account a year ago, thinking it'd help with tracking mileage. She never figured I'd remember that. Turns out, she wasn't as careful as she thought. Her patterns were tight. Monday night yoga, Wednesday brunch with the girls, Friday happy hour with her coworkers. Every other Thursday, she'd hit the grocery store on the far end of town. Said the organic stuff was better there. But the GPS told a different story. One night, she said she was running late from a committee meeting. Her location pinged from a Holiday and 2 exits down off I-35. No grocery store there. Just a gas station, a liquor store, and that hotel. She stayed for 47 minutes. I waited until the next week and watched again. Same night. Same hotel. This time, 62 minutes. That was enough for me. I drove out there the following Thursday, left work an hour early, and parked across from the hotel with a sandwich and a bottle of water. Watched the lot. Saw her car pull in. 2 minutes later, a black Dodge Challenger with vanity plates pulled in next to her. Out came the guy. I didn't need to get close to know who he was. I'd seen him before, around town. Owner of Iron Clutch Gym. Tattoos down both arms. Chest like a fridge, smile too big for his own good. He wore those tight sweatshirts with the sleeves cut off like it was still 2003. Had that energy, loud, braggy. The kind of guy who thinks being in shape means he knows everything. He followed her in like a dog chasing a treat. I didn't move. Just watched. Took a picture with the burner. Time-stamped. Clear shot of both cars, both of them entering. I sat there a long time after they went inside. Didn't feel much. Just empty. Not surprised. Not angry. Just hollow, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. When she got home that night, I was already on the couch, half watching some fishing show. She kissed me on the cheek and said she'd lost track of time after the meeting. I said no problem. She poured a glass of wine and settled in beside me like she hadn't just stepped out of a hotel with another man. That was when I knew. I knew she'd never confess, never blink. She believed she could keep both lives going like parallel roads that never cross. So I smiled. I took 2 vacation days the next week. Told her I had to go out of town for a supplier meeting. Instead, I cleaned house. Went to the bank, updated access. I changed the password to every account that had my name first. Cleared my digital trail, desynced my location. Gathered all the important papers, deeds, registrations, titles. Made photocopies and stored them at Jack's place in an old tackle box under a pile of drop cloths. I boxed up my keepsakes. Not everything, just the pieces that mattered. Old photos, the letter my dad wrote me before he passed, my baseball glove, the flag from my cousin's funeral. Stuff with meaning. She didn't notice any of it was gone. That weekend, she asked if I wanted to check out a winery for our anniversary trip. Said there was one with cabins and a fireplace. I told her it sounded nice. All I could think about was how easy it was. How smooth betrayal wears its mask when you're not looking. How it took me 9 years to really see her. By Sunday night, everything I needed was in place. I had the evidence. I had the plan. She was still laughing at something on her phone when I looked at her across the room and thought, you really don't know what's coming. And that was the last weekend I was ever her husband. Weekend I was ever her husband. When I say I vanished, I don't mean I packed a bag and ghosted. I mean I erased myself, surgically, deliberately, like I'd never been there to begin with. When a man's been lied to in his own house, when his mornings are built on routine and his nights on fake affection, he gets time to think, to plan. And I planned her isolation like I was laying out blueprints for a custom job. First came the money. We'd always had one joint checking account for bills and groceries. That was her comfort zone. She liked logging in, seeing the balance, thinking it meant security. What she didn't know was that 2 months before, I'd already funneled most of my paychecks into a separate account at a smaller bank she didn't know about. It was an old habit from my uncle, a guy who used to say, always keep a drawer no one else has the key to. I went in one Tuesday morning, sat down with the branch manager, and with 3 forms and a driver's license, closed our joint account entirely. Left her nothing but a paper printout showing a 0 balance. She'd see it later, probably while trying to buy lunch. I pictured her at some cafe, swiping a card, watching the machine beep red. That image kept me steady. Next came the house. A year back, I'd quietly refinanced the mortgage into my name alone. She thought it was a rate drop, some special promotion the bank ran. I let her believe it. Didn't even bring it up again. Just filed the paperwork, kept the file in my toolbox, beneath the socket wrenches. By the time I left, that house legally belonged to me. Every square foot of it. She never even asked about the documents. Her car was next. Technically, I leased it. She drove it, but the paperwork was under my name. Monthly payments came out of my account. She picked the color and the trim silver with the sunroof because she said it made her feel free. I called the lease company, filed a stolen vehicle report, and had the dealership put a GPS block on it. By the time she figured out something was wrong, the car had already been disabled remotely. Flatbed showed up in the grocery store parking lot and towed it. I watched the security footage later. She stood there with a cart full of bags and a phone pressed to her ear, trying to understand what had just happened. She tried calling me, of course. First once, then 3 times in a row. I saw the calls come through on the burner, let them ring out, then blocked the number. Next day, I switched carriers entirely. She called my brother. He told her I'd gone on a work trip. That's all he knew. That's all I gave him. Her credit cards? We'd gotten 2 together years ago, back when we first moved in. She'd used them mostly for travel and online orders. I logged in the morning I left and paused them all. Every last one. Timing it just right so it would kick in mid-swipe. The record said the last declined charge was a hair appointment. She'd been trying to pay when the system shut her down. Every connection she had to my world, every access point, I sealed off. I kept receipts. I screenshot every step. My attorney said the more I could prove, the better. So I treated it like a job, measured, thorough, no shortcuts. By the time she realized I was gone, her world had turned into static. She called her mom. I know that. Probably cried, told her something about losing everything overnight. Good. She needed somewhere to run, and her mother's place was as good as any. She stayed there while trying to figure out what happened. I'd already changed the locks, canceled her name on the mail, rerouted my own forwarding address to a P.O. box in another town. She came by once, the day after I left. Neighbor said she stood at the front door with a bag, tried the key twice, then pounded for a few minutes. When no one answered, she sat on the porch for a while. Just sat. I guess she thought I'd come back. That I'd cool off, we'd talk, and somehow she'd explain it all away. But I didn't leave to start a fight. I left to end one. You take something from me, my trust, my peace. You don't get the courtesy of a goodbye. You get silence. You get empty rooms, locked doors, and echoes of a life you had and didn't respect. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to make a scene. I just took back what was mine and made damn sure she couldn't touch any of it again. Once I shut her out, I turned my attention to the other half of the problem. The gym rat. I'd seen his face plenty of times by then, first on the hotel security footage I'd pulled through a buddy in private security, then again when I followed her the second time she visited him. His car, his clothes, the way he moved like he owned the pavement. Guy looked like he'd walked out of a fitness ad and into the life of someone else's wife. But I didn't go off emotion. I did what I do best, I watched. First thing I learned was that he had a routine. Predictable as a clock. Every morning, 6 a.m. sharp, he unlocked Iron Clutch Gym. Lights up, doors open. Some mornings he'd be alone for a bit, doing curls in front of the mirror like he needed to fall back in love with himself before the day got going. Other times he'd have a woman with him, usually a client. Usually laughing too loud. Always a little too friendly. At 10 a.m., he'd head out for smoothies. Same place every time. Muscle Fuel Cafe down the block. Banana Whey blend with extra creatine. Sat out on the patio scrolling his phone, sometimes grinning, sometimes typing fast like he was working a second hustle. I knew better. I'd seen how he texted her, saw the thread, the emojis, the bold confidence. No shame in it. Not a flicker of hesitation. By noon, he was back at the gym. Training sessions, spotter work, a lot of flexing, and what he probably thought were motivational speeches. I watched from across the street, under a ball cap and dark glasses, sipping coffee like I had nowhere to be. I did that for 3 days. On the 4th, I stepped in. It was after hours. Gym closed at 9. By 9:15, most of the lights were out. I waited behind the building, by the alley where they tossed out protein bar boxes and busted dumbbells. It smelled like sweat and disinfectant and something sharp underneath, like rubber mats baking in sun. He came out the back door wearing a sleeveless hoodie, earbuds in. Looked relaxed, satisfied, probably thinking about his next conquest or how many women replied to his Instagram stories. He walked right past me without noticing. I stepped out and said, "Hey." He turned, half annoyed, like I was a stray dog. "You JT." He raised an eyebrow. "Who's asking?" I took 2 slow steps forward. "You know Melissa?" He pulled one bud out of his ear. "Yeah." "Why?" "She's married." He laughed. "Big mistake." "You serious, man?" "Look, I didn't sign up for drama." I didn't raise my voice. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "I'm not here to argue. Just thought you should know whose life you've been stepping into." He gave me that smirk. The kind that says he thought he had the upper hand. That I was just another soft husband who didn't lift enough or talk loud enough. He took a step closer, puffed his chest like he wanted to size me up. "You done?" he said. I nodded. "Yeah, you are." Then I walked away. Next morning, I went to work. I collected everything I needed, photos of him and her together at the hotel, timestamped screenshots, a few messages she forgot to delete off the iPad, and a GPS map of her movements. I wasn't about to post them on a billboard. That's not my style. But he ran a business, and businesses live or die by their reputation. First, I made a Gmail account under the name of a fictional fitness blogger. I wrote a polite, professional email warning potential clients about unethical conduct at Iron Clutch Gym. Attached a discreet photo, nothing explicit, just him in front of that hotel, clearly not doing anything fitness-related. I sent it to every single email on his gym's mailing list, which I'd scraped from his site's client review board. 37 emails. Then I left a review on Yelp. 5 stars for honesty. Said the gym had great equipment, if you don't mind the owner spending more time with clients' spouses than on their squats. Subtle. Enough to raise eyebrows. Enough to start questions. It took 5 days. I watched his business unravel like thread from a cheap sweater. First came the unfollows. Then the angry reviews. A few clients canceled on social media. A mom's group in town reposted my email. The local wellness Facebook group started a thread titled, "What's going on with Iron Clutch?" By the end of week 2, half his regulars were gone. Sponsors pulled out of his weekend boot camp event. One of the yoga instructors quit. He posted a vague video about haters and false accusations. It had 6 comments. All of them bad. I didn't touch him. Never raised a hand. Didn't need to. I just showed the world who he really was and let gravity do the rest. When she finally tried to take control, it was already too late. I'd filed 2 weeks before she even realized I was serious. I'd planned it all quietly, precisely, like laying out a new fence line before digging the first post hole. I wasn't going to give her the chance to spin it, twist it into something it wasn't. This wasn't about arguments or drifting apart. This was betrayal, plain and simple. And I treated it like the business transaction it had become. The day the papers hit her hands, she was living in her mother's guest room, still telling people I'd needed space. She hadn't even told her family about the other man. She probably figured she'd soften the blow, make herself the victim. Classic play. But when my lawyer's courier knocked on the door with the envelope, that story fell fast. She tried calling. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, confused, angry, tearful. Said she didn't understand what was happening. Said we should talk it through like adults. But the time for talk was long gone. I'd already seen the videos. Already logged the GPS data. Already printed the message threads and matched timestamps. I had everything a judge could ever want. My lawyer, Wendell Parks, third-generation attorney with a handshake like a vice, sat across from me the morning we filed and said, "We're not just walking away. We're walking away clean." He wasn't lying. I gave him everything. Printouts. Photos. Access logs. Even a statement from a friend who saw her meet the guy outside the hotel more than once. The file was thick, airtight. He reviewed it, smiled, and said, "She won't know what hit her." She didn't. When she finally showed up at the courthouse, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was tied back in a way I hadn't seen since college, like she was trying to look innocent again. She brought her mom. No lawyer, just hope. Bad move. We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. I didn't flinch. Didn't look at her when she glanced over. I kept my hands folded on the table and let Wendell do the talking. She tried to speak. Said she was confused. Said I'd blindsided her. Said I was being cold, unreasonable. The judge, gray-haired, hard-eyed, barely reacted. He'd seen it all before. Then Wendell opened the file. He laid out the timeline, the transactions, the locations, the photos. He played one voicemail she'd left her lover, saved from the cloud. Her voice, soft, affectionate, unmistakable, saying she couldn't wait for next Thursday, and that I'd never find out. The room went quiet. The judge looked at her, then at me. Then he said, "I see no grounds to deny the petitioner's requests." Just like that. No property split. No alimony. She walked away with one suitcase, 3 frozen credit cards, and a list of phone numbers that stopped answering. The house? Mine. The truck? Mine. The savings she thought we had? Transferred. The furniture? I'd let her take the guest room nightstand. Nothing else. She cried right there in the courtroom. Not quiet tears, either. The kind that echo. Her mother rubbed her back while shooting me looks like I'd done something wrong. Like I was the villain for defending what was mine. But I didn't blink. I didn't speak. I stood, shook Wendell's hand, and walked out through the front doors like I'd just signed off on a project that took too long, cost too much, but was finally over. Outside, the sky was bright. Clear. I drove to my brother's place that night. We grilled burgers. Watched the game. Didn't talk much about it. Just clinked beers and nodded. He knew. A few days later, I saw on social media that she deleted her accounts. Probably tired of explaining why I wasn't in the picture anymore. Maybe her friends asked too many questions. Maybe the guy from the gym stopped answering once the email started rolling in. I don't know. I didn't care. Divorce didn't break me. It released me. I thought it was done after the divorce. Thought she'd vanish into whatever corner of the world she could still pretend she hadn't burned down. But a woman like Melissa doesn't go quietly. Pride like hers doesn't fold just because the truth hit harder than she expected. 2 weeks after the judge signed off, I got served again, this time with a civil claim. Emotional distress. Abandonment. She was suing me for damages, saying I'd evaporated from the marriage and left her in mental anguish. She must have hired some second-rate lawyer who believed her sob story, or maybe just wanted a paycheck. Claims said I caused her anxiety, financial hardship, and loss of community. She even included a note about social humiliation due to unexpected isolation. My lawyer, Wendell, called me that afternoon. He laughed before he even said hello. "You want the good news or the better news?" he asked. "I'll take both," I said. "The good news is, we're going to shut this down so fast it won't even make it to a proper hearing. The better news is, we're going to make her wish she'd never signed the paperwork." He wasn't wrong. We filed a counterclaim. Packed it full of everything she'd already seen in the divorce hearing and more. The private investigator report. The message screenshots. The GPS trail logs. Pictures. Times. Hotel receipts. Call history. Even the timestamp from the gym's own website showing she checked in under a guest pass twice during my work trips. Wendell's assistant organized it into a bulletproof portfolio. He included a timeline, color-coded, indexed, referenced. The whole thing looked like a federal case file. When her lawyer saw it, they tried to negotiate. Said she'd drop her claim if I paid a small settlement, something to help her land on her feet. I told Wendell to send them nothing but a polite decline and a reminder that defamation countersuits were still on the table. That was the last I heard from them. From there, it all unraveled on her end. She had to move out of her mom's place after a few tense weeks. Word got around. Her sisters started asking questions. Her friends pulled back. No more brunches. No more cute Instagram updates from wine bars and Pilates studios. She shut down her social media, said she was taking a break to heal. She landed in a small apartment complex off Route 12. I know because my cousin delivers propane tanks and recognized her dragging boxes up to a third-floor walk-up in the rain. Said she looked exhausted. Said she didn't say a word. She tried calling the gym guy again. At least twice, from what I heard. Once from a new number. He didn't answer. The second time, she left a message. He never returned it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe, after losing half his business and catching the full weight of a town's silent judgment, he realized she wasn't worth the damage. Either way, he disappeared. Closed the gym 2 months later. Some folks said he moved to another state. Didn't bother to notify his old clients. She ended up working retail. A boutique shop in the strip mall by the interstate. One of those places with fake wooden floors and motivational signs in cursive about living your truth. I walked in once, not realizing she was there. She looked up from behind the counter. Her face dropped like a rock in a lake. I didn't say a word. Just nodded, turned around, and walked right back out. The way I figured it, that was her new reality. Let her own it. A few months later, my buddy saw her walking to work. Said she looked smaller, thinner. Not just in body, like someone had drained all the color out of her. He asked if I felt bad. I said, no. She wasn't punished. She just finally had to live a life she built with her own choices. No comfort zone to hide in. No husband to lean on. No lover to escape with. That's not cruelty. That's consequence. I didn't ruin her. I just stopped protecting her from the results of her own actions. There's a difference. And maybe now, folding blouses for a living and eating lunch from the clearance rack at the gas station deli, she's learned what honesty costs when it isn't propped up by lies. Good for her. After everything settled, after the courthouse, the silence, the fallout, I packed what was left and drove south. Didn't tell anyone right away. Just filled the truck, programmed the GPS, and took the long way out of town. I needed road time. Something about the hum of tires and the sight of flat land sliding past the window always clears my head. I landed in Austin, Texas. I'd been through before, once on business, once on a cross-country ride. Both times it felt like a place built for rebuilding. Something about the mix of old wood and new steel, coffee shops tucked behind auto body garages, tacos served from places that looked like they shouldn't still be standing. That blend of fresh starts and hard miles. It fit. I rented a place short-term while I got my bearings. A 2-bedroom, nothing fancy, but it had a back patio and a tall tree that dropped leaves like confetti in the wind. I liked watching them fall. Gave me a kind of peace. Within 2 months, I found a house on the edge of town. 1-story, brick front, detached garage out back. Had a yard big enough for a smoker and a shed, and a small workshop that needed some love. The roof was solid, the wiring was good, and the bones felt right. It was mine within the week. I started my consultancy out of the kitchen. Nothing big, just me, my laptop, and a pot of coffee that never went cold. I offered operations and systems work for small outfits, logistics, streamlining, vendor management. Stuff most people hate doing. I was good at it. And when word got around that I didn't overcharge and always hit deadlines, business picked up. Clients called. Checks cleared. Life moved. On weekends, I started building again. Not houses or spreadsheets. Bikes. I'd been into motorcycles since I was 16. First ride was a rusted-out Yamaha XS 650 I bought with lawn mowing money. I rebuilt it in my dad's garage, learned everything from old magazines and greasy hands. That old Yamaha taught me patience, how to respect time and torque and trial and error. In Austin, I turned the garage into a workspace. Got a lift. Set up shelves. Ran lighting and bought parts off Craigslist and forums. Built one bike, then another. Word spread. Guys from downtown started dropping by, asking if I could help with theirs. I didn't charge at first. Just liked the work, the focus, the way metal and machine came together under your hands. One afternoon in October, I was at a small bike show near the river, just a local thing, nothing big, when I met Jenna. She had a booth next to mine. Sold leather goods, belts, bags, straps. Worked with her hands. Wore denim like armor, had calluses on her thumbs and paint under her nails. She walked with purpose, talked quiet but sharp. The kind of person who doesn't waste a word unless it's worth hearing. We got to talking over coffee. Turned into a late lunch. Then a ride out past the hills. She rode an old Triumph with a sputtering idle and a throttle that needed coaxing. Said she liked it that way. Nothing that fights you is ever boring, she told me. We didn't rush. We talked. Rode. Built trust with space between the lines. She never asked about my past, not directly. But she listened when I told her I'd once had to walk away from a fire without making a sound. She nodded like she understood more than I'd said. Jenna didn't need the full story. She just needed the man who came out the other side. And I like that. Evenings now look different. The hum of tools. A quiet voice across the table. Music from a speaker that plays old country one day, indie folk the next. Sometimes we sit on the porch and say nothing at all. And somehow, that silence feels warmer than 100 noisy dinners I once had. I'm not saying I forgot what happened, but I don't carry it like weight anymore. It's a shadow in the rearview mirror. Something that once rode shotgun, then the bed of the truck, and eventually dropped off at a crossroads I didn't mark. I moved on. I built something. Not perfect, not flashy, but mine. And when I walk into my shop each morning, see the light hit the gas tank just right, hear the rattle of tools in their trays, I know exactly who I am again. Not broken, not bitter, just rebuilt. Last week, I pulled off the highway outside Temple to top off the tank. Nothing special, Just another dusty Texas gas station where the pump screens are faded and the concrete's cracked from too many summers. I was halfway through filling up when I looked across the lot and saw her. Melissa. I hadn't seen her in almost a year. Maybe longer. I'd stopped counting. She was walking out of the convenience store, holding a bottled water and a pack of mints. Hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a worn-out hoodie and those old sneakers she used to paint the porch in. Her hair was brittle-looking, like it hadn't seen conditioner in a while. Shoulders slouched. She moved like someone who didn't have anywhere urgent to be. She didn't see me. I don't think she even noticed the truck, my new one, dark blue, no plates she'd recognize. I stood there with one hand on the pump and just watched her for a moment. Not with hate, not even pity, just distance. Like watching a stranger pass through a scene you used to know by heart. She looked tired, not just sleepy, but worn out in a deeper way. Like life had been tapping her on the shoulder every day and she'd just been ignoring it until the knocks got louder. She crossed the lot slowly, climbed into a silver sedan that had a dent in the back bumper and a donut tire on the front passenger side. I don't know if it was hers or borrowed, but it sure didn't look like the life she thought she was trading up for. And me? I just clicked the pump back into place and got in my truck. Watched her pull out of the lot, turn onto the frontage road, and disappear behind a semi headed west. I didn't wave, didn't call her name, didn't feel the need. I drove off before she had the chance to see me. Not because I was afraid, not because I owed her a thing, just because that chapter, whatever you want to call it, was over the moment I walked out the door that morning and never looked back. People think revenge is fire, flashy, loud, dramatic, but that's not how it works. Not for men like me. Not for folks who think with their hands and live with their boots on the ground. My revenge? It's quiet. It's deliberate. It's every little move I made when I kept my mouth shut and documented every detail. It's every key I changed, every account I locked down, every lie she tried to tell that unraveled in front of a judge who didn't blink. It's the silence in my home now, filled with peace instead of suspicion. The smell of engine grease and fresh wood in my garage. The warm light from a lamp Jenna found at a flea market that somehow makes every room feel lived in. Revenge isn't shouting across a courtroom or smashing someone's things. It's watching them walk through their new life, knowing they built it on their own ashes. And you? You're just gone. Free. There's a clarity in starting over that I don't think most people ever reach. The kind that comes not from erasing the past, but understanding it so well you can leave it in the rear view without a second thought. She's someone I used to know. A chapter closed with no dramatic end. No final confrontation. Just a slow fade to silence. And me? I've got oil under my fingernails, a woman who knows how to listen without asking too much, and a small house that stays quiet at night for all the right reasons. The fire she lit never touched me. I walked through it, steady, head high, and came out cleaner on the other side. That's the thing about betrayal. It burns quick. But my kind of justice? It cools slow. It takes its time. And when it lands, it leaves nothing left to argue about. That's how you end a story. Not with noise, but with the sound of tires on pavement as you drive away, never looking back. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done differently if you were in his shoes? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.